Hi guys, Olive here today to share with you the books I'm planning on reading in December 2024. Now that Nonfiction November is officially over, I have to start facing the fact that we are entering the final month of the year. And I have two major goals for this reading month that always seem to be my goals as we're approaching the end of the year. The first one is to finish my 24 nonfiction books to read in 2024 list, or more realistically, get as many books completed on that list as possible. In retrospect, when I was putting that list together around this time last year, there were some flaws in my system of putting together the list. I think I was way too focused on putting very hyped books, very popular nonfiction books on that list. I wanted to have those books under my belt. And so I picked the majority of books because they were very popular and not necessarily because I was super excited to read them. I was interested in reading them, but I wasn't really hyped to read them. And so admittedly, here at this point, almost a year later, I've lost interest in reading some of those books. So I have come to terms with the fact that I don't think I'm going to get that list 100% completed, but the ones I am still excited about reading, I will be finishing during the month of December, and I've definitely learned from this experience. I'm in the process of putting together my 25 nonfiction books to read in 2025 list, which I will be sharing with you in just a couple of weeks. But my other goal for the month of December, as it has been for the past few years, is to find some favorite fiction books of the year. I don't know why it always comes down to December. I don't know why I'm always in the 11th hour struggling to find fiction books I love. I think it might be that I'm just picking up less fiction books than I used to, so there are fewer to choose from. And also, I think I'm a whole lot pickier about fiction. I think fiction impresses me a lot less than it did at the start of my channel. Something's going on, but every single December, I feel like I look at all the books I've read throughout the year and I start panicking as I see there are so few 5-star fiction books to put on a favorite fiction books of the year list. So for this December TBR, I'm pulling out the big guns. I have selected some novels that have great reviews and that sound like exactly my kind of thing. I'm really hoping that I love some of these. Maybe one, even two, if I'm lucky, will end up on that favorite fiction books of the year list and round it out. The first one was actually one of my most anticipated releases of this quarter. It just came out at the beginning of November. It's called Eleanor of Avignon by Elizabeth de Lazier. And this is a work of historical fiction set in 14th century France. We follow a midwife who kind of stumbles into becoming the apprentice to the Pope's private physician. And I think the bubonic plague also plays a role in this plot as well. Just everything about this, from the setting to the premise to that medical element, all of that has me very confident that I'm going to enjoy this. I also feel very good about my next pick, even if it is super long. It's called Fane by Anne-Marie MacDonald, and this is a sweeping, and if I'm understanding correctly, a lightly magical historical novel set in the 19th century. Our main character, Charlotte, is only 12 years old when we first meet her, and she's suffering from some sort of unexplained medical condition that keeps her all cooped up in her family's estate, where many secrets reside, and then I think we follow her over the years. From what I hear about this book, it does seem like it's quite slow moving. But as the weather starts to get cooler outside, that is the kind of novel that I'm looking to really sink into. So I'm going to set aside a good chunk of time to get through this one in December. This next one I've actually already sampled the early chapters of over on the Threadable app, and I was absolutely hooked after reading those early chapters, doing that little bit of a try a chapter tag. It's The Modern Fairies by Claire Pollard. This book is about a group of Paris intellectuals, mainly women, who get together to read one another these fairy tales that they have written that are meant to express their frustrations with society, but in a much more socially acceptable way. They're hiding those frustrations within these fairy tales. Those early chapters that I read were gorgeously written. It had so much personality. The characters have so much sass, which is a big plus for me. I am so excited to get back to this one, and I will report back on how I like the rest of it. I sorted my to-read shelf on Goodreads by average rating in order to select this next one. I know that selecting a book that has a high average rating isn't always the best way to find a new favorite. I've even spoken about that before here on my channel. However, I am that desperate right now to find a 5-star read. I'm willing to pull out all the stops, just anything I can think of. So I did see that a lot of people love Madonna in a Fur Coat by Sabahattin Ali, which is a short translated novel about a brief romance in 1920s Berlin. It sounded really nice. And also the fact that it's short made sense for me. I know Fane is going to take me a really long time to read, so it just felt right to counterbalance that with a shorter book. The final novel that I've earmarked for December, I picked not necessarily because I think it's a contender for a favorite fiction book of the year, although you never know, maybe it will be that good, but instead because I think it's really going to suit the Christmas season, and that is Flight by Lynn Seeger Strong. This is a work of literary fiction, and we follow 3 grown siblings and their families as they're coming together to celebrate Christmas for the very first time since the death of their mother. So you can see why I thought it would be appropriate to read this one toward the end of the year. And the same thing goes for my first nonfiction pick of the month, The 12 Birds of Christmas by Stephen Moss, which discusses those birds that are closely associated with Christmas. So think turtle doves, partridges, even geese. So many of the gifts in that classic carol are birds. I've heard some jokes to that effect around the internet, like you're just receiving so many birds from your true love, which sounds fantastic to me, although I don't know how all those birds would fare here in my house with 2 cats lurking around. But every chapter in this book talks about one of those birds, and I thought a fantastic way to get myself into the Christmas spirit this year would be to make this my nightstand book and to read 1 chapter per night in the 12 days leading up to Christmas Day. So that's what I'm going to do with this one. Another nature book that I plan on reading in the month of December is called The Age of Deer by Erica Hauser. And this is a natural and cultural history of deer, meaning deer in the natural world, but also the significance that deer have in our human worlds. I was lucky enough to get this book at an author event. I got to hear her talk. I got to hear her read from this book. The sections that she read were absolutely beautiful. We have a lot of deer here in Western Pennsylvania. I see deer nearly every day. They just kind of wander around my neighborhood. I'm sure reading this book will give me a whole new appreciation for them. But back to that 24 nonfiction books I want to read in 2024 list, there were 2 books on that list that I picked out to read specifically in the month of December. So I know at the very least I will be getting to these 2. The first one is a book called Dressed for a Dance in the Snow by Monika Zugstova. This is a book that tells the stories of 9 female survivors of Stalin's forced labor camps, known as gulags. I have already read and was incredibly moved by Anne Applebaum's sweeping history of the entire gulag system, but it does seem like this one's going to be at least a touch more personal, since we're getting to know a handful of survivors. The other one I'll be reading off of that same list is also a lot more personal because it's a memoir called Stray by Stephanie Damler. This author also wrote a novel called Sweet Bitter, which I absolutely loved, and it's really good that I've already read it because this memoir is about the period of time after Stephanie Damler sold Sweet Bitter to a publisher. It had always been her dream to publish a book, but after she achieved that dream and she realized that it didn't make her feel whole, she realized that she still had a lot of healing to do, and that's what this memoir is all about. That feeling of accomplishing something really big, but then having that come down of realizing that it didn't fix you, I think that's very relatable. I've made some big changes in my life over the past 2.5 years. I've done things that I've always wanted to do, like my entire life long, and it feels great. But once you do those really big things, those bucket list kind of goals that you've always wanted for yourself, once you do them, once you actually check them off, it does have a way of shining a spotlight on all the things left in your life that still need work. I'll be very interested to hear what Stephanie Damler has to say about all of that in this book. I already know I love her writing, so I think I'm just going to get lost in this one. And as I said at the beginning of the video, there are a few more books on that list of 24 that I haven't yet read, But I'm not sure as of this exact moment which of those I'm going to make the push to finish in 2024. I'm just going to see which ones I still feel really excited about. I'll read those, and then whatever I don't finish, I'm just going to take the L. Those are going to go back onto my grander TBR, and I'll get to them eventually. I'm definitely realizing that there were some flaws in the way I put together that 2024 list. I was just way too focused on putting books on the list that I feel weird about not having read. As someone who is well known for enjoying nonfiction, I felt weird not having read some of these books, but I don't think that was enough to keep me enthusiastic about the list. I forgot to counterbalance those types of books with books that I am organically really excited about. So I just wasn't able to maintain that same level of enthusiasm for this list the entire year long that I need to really have a shot at finishing the entire list. So lesson learned, and I am putting that toward my 2025 list. So those were my reading plans, my goals for the month of December. I do have some things I'd like to accomplish before 2024 is over, but I can say that I'm genuinely really excited about all the reading I'm going to be doing this month, especially selecting all those novels I think I'm going to love. I probably have a pretty good reading month in store, at least I hope so. I would love to hear from you. What did you think of any of these books? Are you interested in reading any of them? And what are your reading plans for the month of December? Is there anything you're trying to finish up? Any new books on your radar? I'd love to hear any or all of that down in the comment section below. All of the books that I spoke about today will be listed and linked for you in the description box below. They are there for your clicking convenience. And at the very bottom of the exact same description box, you will also see links to everywhere you can find me around the internet. So my Goodreads, Instagram, the Story Graph, all the places I'm the most active, in case you want to keep up with what I'm reading and doing right now. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.